as we turn over a new leaf and look at what is happening in the world of cricket. And this afternoon, again, we have our panel, and I'm going to kick it over to none other than Secretary of the Cricket Hall of Fame, the Honorable Gail Brown. And over to you, Honorable Brown.
Thank you, Sir Professor, and greetings and welcome to everyone. And I'll just make a very brief introduction to our panelists. We have Hall of Famer, Mr. John Melbourne, years of experience, and he will share his analysis with us tonight on the preview of the T20 World Cup. We also have Mr. Vernon Springer, and we expect this veteran commentator and analyst to provide us with some astute analysis of the World Cup semifinals. And last but not least, the most experienced cricketer amongst us in the group, and he's world famous, of course, and he has what he will bring to us tonight is his expert championship experience. He has been there and he has done that, and he has coached. So he's going to give us his expert views based on experience. Who is then what is the best teacher? But experience. And Gus will share that with us tonight. So gentlemen, we will switch over and we see that the great professor is here, the man who is the glue to all of this happening, the man who at the drop of a hat can give you his views from all angles, but his preference is the right-angled triangle, which he believes the truth lies within that right-angle triangle. So, Professor, Gus, Vernon, and John, welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you, gentlemen.
Okay.
Thank you so much, dear.
Lovely welcome.
Yes, so we are going to start off with Gus, because we'd like to ask Gus, just simply, who, in his view, starts as favorite, the favorites for both games in the semifinals? Yes, the favorites.
Well, I want to be true to my predictions from the beginning. And I was very much adamant that India would be in the finals and eventually win it. I think that I'm not going to change that. I had Australia in the finals. They have lost. But of course, South Africa, New Zealand, I believe that South Africa has the edge. And of course, I said India has the edge on England. So that's my prediction without going into too much detail at this point. But if I want to go into details, I would suggest that the first game, which is tomorrow, where you have South Africa versus New Zealand. I think one of the possibly disadvantages of some of the teams is having to shift from venue to venue, if you want to call it that, or from one country to the next. And I think teams like England and possibly, New Zealand haven't played a few games in England, and then having to go over to Sri Lanka to play on different surfaces. It means that players had to then adjust their game to suit the kind of pitches that they were there to meet. Because in Sri Lanka, you realize the scores were a lot lower in most cases, depending on where they play, because of the turning surfaces, the lower surfaces. Coming back to India, where it's a bit more, I would think, batter friendly in some of the pitches, a little bit more bounce, but certainly a bit better for batters. But batters having to change from one to the next, it means that the New Zealanders coming back now to India to play their game will have some adjustments to do. Yes, you will have some practice sessions before the game, but the real thing is in the middle. South Africa, having been based really in India, has a distinct advantage, possibly playing on the surfaces there and doing very well. They are unbeaten so far. I expect that to continue. Yes, New Zealand have some batting depth, they have some power, but I think the South Africans have power, depth, and even a bit more power. They have power in the batting, and I think they have power in the bowling. One might say South African bowling attack on the results so far would be one of the better bowling attacks, more balanced bowling attack in the tournament so far. But I think their batting has really complemented them in the field. They are a live wire in the field as well led by the captain. So I see South Africa coming out on top in that game.
Okay, thank you, Gus. And we'll go over to John. Who starts as favorites in these semi-final games?
Unlike Gus, I don't want India to win this World Cup. And so
No, I didn't say I want to know. I am telling you. I know you and I would have won Afghanistan and I would have won West Indies. but those were just
on a more serious note, let me start with the New Zealand-South Africa matchup. Those were the two teams that I really was looking at coming out on top when the finalists played. And I am sorry that they are going to meet in the semi-final. And I think the winner of the New Zealand-South Africa game probably is going to win this World Cup. Yes, New Zealand has some batting, but I think South Africa probably has a little bit more bowling than New Zealand does. And of course, the South Africa does have the batting, with Markham and De Kock and Rickleton at the top of the order. In the India-England game, I am really hoping that England pulls one off against India. To be very frank, I really don't, and I suppose I don't want India to win this World Cup because of their they believe they run cricket, and I want to kind of pull them back a little from the top of the heap. And so I'm hoping that England can pull one off against India, with Josh Butler and Phil Salt and Harry Brook, and of course the Barbadian-born Jacob Bethel can put the runs on the board, and then the England bowling can do the damage against India. Because they beat West Indies, but I still don't think that India has the batting to win this World Cup. And even during the West Indies-India game, I kept texting Trevor and say, "Where's the Delilah to get Samson out?" Because I thought Samson was the key to the Indian innings, and we just couldn't get rid of him. But that's how life is. I think the winner of the South Africa game, South Africa New Zealand game, will win this World Cup, and that's my take on it.
Thank you, John. So now we go to Vernon. And Vernon, I know you're champing at the bit to share with us who you think will start as favorites or who you expect to win those two semi-final games.
Thank you very much, guys. It's really indeed a pleasure to be speaking about the T20 World Cup semi-final. The road to the final starts tomorrow, and we started with 20 countries, 20 nations, came down to 8. It's now down to 4. We're talking about New Zealand versus South Africa, England versus India. What is pretty unique about the entire situation is that England share a piece of history where they are joint successful team along with the West Indies and India, having won in 2010 and 2022. So you have that little gap between you. But while they have also been runners-up in 2016, they also reached the semi-finals of the tournament twice in 2021 and 2024. So when you match that up against, and I'm going to go reverse, I'm going to go England versus India first. You have, coming back from the 2024 T20 World Cup, India are the defending champions. They're playing at home, so it's almost like added pressure. They have lost the game, and they have 5 players coming back from the 2024 World Cup squad that would have won, in Patel, Bumrah, Pandey, Singh, and Yadav, who is now the captain. In the context of things, England has got a fearless team because they've been playing a sort of brand of cricket that is called baseball. And when you look at the way in terms of how Harry Brook has just gone about his innings, he's just almost unbelievable. And don't take into, if you follow the stats, Josh Butler has not cracked a whip yet. He's really been out of form. So that's almost an area of concern. When you look at the England lineup, you see Harry Brook with 228 runs. Will Jacks has been the real unknown person here in this championship. He's got 191 runs and a high score of 53, 7 wickets. Young Jacob Bethel has got 175 wickets. And Sam Curran, who's been having an excellent year, the last 18 months has been good for him as an all-rounder. He's got 149 runs and 6 wickets. Now, their bowling quietly have gone about their business. If we look at the competition, you would have to say that South Africa's got the best bowling attack based on their spinners that are on show and their seamers. Ngidi is leading with 12 wickets. But what is crafty about Ngidi is he's been foxing out almost all of the batters with his off-cutter. And it's something which he's tremendously worked on. So England, Overton has got 9 wickets. Adil Rashid, who's easily one of the best spinners in this World Cup and has used the conditions wisely, along with Ahmed, who's batting well as well, got 11 wickets. Dawson and Archer's got 10. So if you match that up against the South Africa pace attack, you would have to say South Africa is number 1, England quietly is there. But there's a fearless attitude about the South African batting and the England batting. It's fearless to the point that they're given the license. And it's kind of unfortunate that for the West Indies, we didn't have that sort of attitude where we were playing conservative cricket in our last game. So yes, Chase was moved up the order, but for some reason, Hope just never got into overdrive. And rather than rotating the strike, he just ended up under pressure. So if you look at when England is playing, they both can go at the same time. The same thing with South Africa. When those guys get on top of you, they're going. India can also create that, except that in the last game, the savior that we saw was Samson. So we saw Samson who we really couldn't get out. Now, who's the best fielding team out of these 4? On any given day, New Zealand with Glenn Phillips is a wonderful fielding team. But South Africa have also worked on their fielding as well. And so if you're looking for the weakest link in terms of fielding out of these 4 teams, you would have to say it's India in terms of the athletic ability of the athletes in terms of what you're looking at. So my matchups for the final would be England, South Africa. That is my prediction.
Okay, thank you, Vernon. We'll go a little bit deeper, come back a bit. Professor,
Well,
your turn.
you know, I am on the bandwagon with Brother Vernon when it comes to the matchup for the finals. I am on board with Brother John when it comes to I don't want to see India anywhere close to the final. Okay? Period. Why? Because they still have a bad credit with me. They have not cleaned up the platform. Okay? So they still have bad credit. Now, on the other hand, why I expect England to win is because when India and England meet in the semi-final, the winner of that semi-final has gone on to win the title or the cup. Okay? When India and England has met in the semi-final, the winner came from the winner of that matchup for the cup. So I am on England all the way. Yes, it might be England against South Africa because I like the pitches. Okay, but the key to me for England is Salt and Curran. When those 2 guys are on top of their game, I'm comfortable that they take it home. Salt has not been what he should be up there as an opening batsman. And I expect that's not going to stay there too long. I expect him to break out and go maybe wire to wire. And Curran is a big game. Yeah, I mean, I respect the other guys, but if you get to Curran and he's on top of his game, England is going to take home the trophy.
Thank you, Professor. So now, based on our panel of experts, South Africa seemed to be the overwhelming favorite to get to the final, along with England. So we're going to look at all the teams, but we're going to start out with South Africa and ask John, the key players, and what do you think are the attributes of the team, starting from the captain to the bowling unit and to the batting unit? What impresses you most about South Africa?
I think South Africa is a professional team now with Markram and De Kock at the top of the order. And I think if Markram and De Kock can get them through the power play 6 overs, then with Rickleton and what's his name, Brevis coming and David Miller, if they bat first, should be able to put up a very competitive score. However, as I've said before, South Africa does have some bowling there. New Zealand does have some bowling there that probably can reach. But I think, if as I say, if Markram and De Kock can get them off to a good start, they will be troublesome in that semi-final. And of course, South Africa does have the bowling to restrict New Zealand. But all in all, I think it's going to be a very interesting semi-final, and a semi-final that you shouldn't miss. Period. New Zealand does have the Tim Seifert. They have the finale. Rachin Ravindra is also a key player in the semi-final on the team. So too, and Glenn Phillips, as was mentioned previously. Daryl Mitchell coming down further in the order. So I don't know. I think New Zealand, South Africa is going to come out on top.
Okay, so Gus, South Africa, what impresses you most, and what do you think New Zealand would have to do well to defeat South Africa?
South Africa team seemed to be a well-oiled machine at this point in time, as I say, well led by the captain, Markham. He seemed to have a cool and calm demeanor. Even when things go a little awry, you don't see him looking too flustered. He seemed to understand and know his players very well as to what they can do. And he seemed to trust them enough, and they seemed to trust him enough when making decisions. And I think we have seen that many times, especially when he's on the field and the bowling changes he makes, the field placings, even though some of that will have been discussed prior to. But to be able to go out there and in the heat of the moment and still make those decisions, it's like a chessboard, make the right moves here and there, says a lot about him, the maturity that he has shown, the improvement that he has shown, even as a batter, taking on the best of the bowlers at the top of the order. He basically is setting the benchmark for the rest of players to follow. And when you have a captain who not only talk the talk, but walk the talk, you have a team that will be ready to, run over anyone, anything for you. And I think that this is exactly what he has. He has the support of his players. The players themselves have all rounded into some form. I remember a few episodes ago, we talked about the bowling and the bowling minus the young fast bowler. He hadn't had much of a good time around the batter. Well, against the West Indies, he certainly came to the party. And of course, that to me was the missing cog in the wheel that they had. They have their premier bowler picking up wickets in an economical rate. And that is what he did. He did pretty well against West Indies, hence the reason why they were so dominant. So I see no reason to doubt that they have the confidence, they have the skill sets, they have the personnel, and I believe that they will go out there tomorrow and do the job. The only thing I cannot fully take, even though I've seen signs of it, is that they are trying their best to get rid of this choker's tag that they have when you play these knockout games. They would have played well up to a point, and then when they get to this finals knockout game, they seem to falter. But I think they will go all the way because I think they have gone over that hurdle in this particular series. I go back to the game against Afghanistan when you had these super overs and the way they kept their composure win those super overs. Not only to win the super over, but the game itself, tells me that they are ready to take on the best. And I am confident that they can. New Zealand, on the other hand, has always been there and about, semifinals. They've done well over the years to get up there, to qualify for these tournaments. Unfortunately, sometimes it's a bit difficult for them to take it all the way. This year, they've had some, hiccups, one or two players going home, coming back. They had one or two injury issues. Their off spinner had to go back home because of an injury. Bracewell, he would have been an ideal person to fit into this semifinal. But the reserve that they have, even though they would have done well, I don't think that they are going to be able to stop the juggernauts that is South Africa at this point in time. Even though Santa is a pretty good leader himself, he's done pretty well for himself to the team. But some of the players at this point in time has not hit the straps that they wanted to hit. Outside of Glenn Phillips, possibly Seaford, and the rest of the players haven't really done themselves justice. One score here, one score there, but not consistently so. And I think that they will give a good account of themselves, but I expect South Africa to come up.
Okay, thank you. And Sir Vernon, what impresses you most about South Africa, and what would New Zealand have to do very well in order to beat them?
It is important to have attitude in cricket. And when you maybe look at the matchup of New Zealand, outside of Tim Seifert and Glenn Phillips, you'll be searching yourself to ask who are the other players that have that sort of attitude on a big day moment to be able to turn up and decide, listen, we can press the button. I mean, we all know the capabilities of a Seifert on any given day. Glenn Phillips is a live wire. It just depends on how well he does in the field. That sort of sometimes motivates him. And so if he gets going, anything can happen. I think the major concern, and Gus hit the nail on the head, is New Zealand's bowling. How consistent they are. They seem to be ruffled. If partnerships are built, they seem to not understand what's the next option in terms of what's going to be happening. So for them, they're going to have to be able to bring their A game, which they have maybe not brought this tournament as yet. Now, when we look at South Africa, you would realize that South Africa has a number of heroes. You have Rickerton leading so far. In fact, Markram, the captain, 268 runs, Rickerton with 228. You have Brevis, 173 runs, Miller, 168, and De Kock, 171. You always need heroes in matches if you want to succeed in cricket. And any one of those five on any given day could be your hero. And I'm just talking about batting. I'm not talking about the bowling. I'm just talking about the batting. One of them can just decide, and you realize how they just took the West Indies, Markram and De Kock just took West Indies out of the game. Because it wasn't just like one going, it was like both going, and just deciding, boy, this is what we're going to go for. Since the 2024 World Cup, or even before I go to that analysis, South Africa in ICC semifinals have lost 11 and only won 2 of the ICC semifinals. But they have become a mature team over that period of time because they've changed their mindset of thinking. They have sort of concentrated on more understanding that they have talent, and almost every team has talent. Talent is common. But what creates a winning team is the consistency of the heroes that you create. So the matchup for them was playing against Afghanistan, 2 super overs. It came down to mental. It came down to the mental side of the game and how they kept their calm on the Markram to trust what they wanted to do and to execute. Now let's look at the South Africa's team results since 2024. They've only lost 1 game. They've defeated Sri Lanka, Netherlands, Bangladesh, Nepal, United States of America, England, West Indies, Afghanistan, Canada, New Zealand, UAE, India, West Indies, Zimbabwe. So on a consistent basis during that period of time, you see that they have run into some kind of form. In small tournaments like these, you expected to lose a game. And maybe it would have been a good thing that they lost that game earlier now. So now it's kind of down now to the wire now to see who can hold their nerves. And David Miller is a sort of impact player as we would see, that could be able to just come in that late order because of his experience playing all around the world and just completely take that game away from you. Markram has shown calm leadership in crisis. And most of all, if you look at their feeling, even their bowling unit, they put their body on the line. So, hey, I'm saying, unless, as we would say in the Caribbean, unless somebody spin the buckle and work up the hobby or something, I can't see anybody stopping South Africa.
South Africa has been unbeaten so far. It will be really, really, really cruel. You know?
Yes.
Okay, to get to this stage and don't go for it.
Yes, thank you, Vernon. And as Vernon mentioned, panelists, South Africa has only lost one game in the last 16 T20 World Cup matches. So they're on a high as anyone can get. Professor, what's most impressive to you about the South African team, and what could New Zealand possibly do to upset that apple cart?
Well, let me say this, that, I mean, South Africa is playing a little bit above their level right now. That is my point, that, they have done well in this tournament, which has raised their profile, but coming in where the 48 team games were concerned, when we had 48 games to play, we were not really calling South Africa. We're calling India, or we're calling Pakistan. Even when Pakistan was threatening to forfeit one game, we were still saying Pakistan is going to end up in the Super 8. And we're still saying that the whole ICC is sitting down there rigging the games so Pakistan and India can play, okay? So, but head to head now. Let's cut the fat and get down to the bone. Head to head between New Zealand and versus South Africa in the last 5 games. It's 0 New Zealand and 5 South Africa. Head to head, T20 in the last 5 games between New Zealand and South Africa. It's 0 New Zealand and 5 South Africa. So on that basis, again, South Africa is going to be playing England in the finals. Rest of it, I don't want to go over everything that everybody said already because you made some great points and there were salient points, there were factual points, so I don't have to repeat them. All I know is that 8-8, T20, over the last 5 games between New Zealand and South Africa, it's 0 New Zealand and 5 South Africa. I rest my case.
Thank you, Professor. And we'll go over to the other semi-final, where we see England playing the hosts, India. And John, what do you think your least favorite team, India, brings to the park? And what does England do to counteract whatever India has brought to the park?
It's really difficult for me to assess India because, as I keep on saying, I don't think they have the batting. The bowling they have with Bumrah, Hardik Pandya, Varun Chakravarti, but the batting is just unfortunate. As I said, West Indies couldn't find the Delilah to get rid of Samson, because in that game, no other Indian batsman passed 30, but Samson was holding down the ship. And it's not unfortunate that West Indies lost that game with four balls to go. But I think I don't see India. I'm not sure that India have the batting. That's one problem. Against the bowling attack of India with Jafra Archer and Sam Curran and Abdul Rashid and Will Jacks. Will Jacks though is a fly in the ointment, Of course, Jacob Bethel pitches in, but I think India has will have too much bowling for India. And I think the England batting is going to get the job done against India. I still don't see India beating England in this semi-final. At least I hope they don't.
Okay, thank you, John. And Gus, it's your turn at bat. India versus England specifics. What does one team have to do to overcome the other team?
Well, obviously, let's put it this way in a simple parlance, you got to make run more than the other team, or restrict them to one run less than what you got. But I think in all honesty and seriousness, I think let's look at England. England haven't played the type of cricket that I think they can play. I have been disappointed with England. They've scraped through basically to the semi-finals. Let's put it this way. When you look at their performances, it has been underwhelming. Yes, they had Carrie Brooks playing one of the best innings I would have seen from a number three, and then they promoted him to number two, so that was a positive for England. Realizing that he was wasted at possibly five, so they promoted him in a must-win game, and he came up trump. He scored 100 and even 100. I thought it was a fantastic innings on a surface that most players struggle to. So we know the quality that he has. The other batsmen have not lived up to the kind of expectations that I would have had about an England team with the openers Saul and also Butler. We know Butler to be, a world-class player, very devastating player on his day. What I have seen from him is more diminishing returns from a player and someone who is like a shell of himself. I am hopeful that he can come out tomorrow, the next few days, and really show what the Butler that I have seen in West Indies, the Butler that I've seen in IPL, taking the attack to India, that'll be great. But at the moment, I'm not seeing that from him. Better seem to be regressing a bit. The way he's been getting out, pretty easy, even when looking set. That is a worry for them as well. Yes, we talk about Jacks, but Jacks comes down most times when you have 5, 6 overs to go. I don't think England can afford to be in a situation where you're losing so many wickets at the top in a semi-final and you have Jacks coming down to try and score a quick 30 or a quick 40. And I think that is something they need to look at. Banton, yeah, he might be good for a 30 or 40. But outside of that, really and truly, I think they would struggle. They really need to put on from the start and have Harry Brooks come in and play the way he can play. If he can do that, he certainly will give India something to chase or something to be worried about. Outside of that, their bowling attack, yes, Jofra Archer, we know he's quick. We know that he's capable, but again, I don't think we've seen the best of them in India. I don't know that the Indian players would be too scared of, what Jofra Archer brings to the table. The spinners themselves, Rashid, he's capable, he's a world-class bowler, but I think the Indian players will certainly be able to handle the spin, especially on surfaces that is not turning as much, and it's not going to turn as much in India on the pitches that it prepare as it did possibly in Sri Lanka. So that makes the effectiveness of that type of bowler a little less. India has about 6 left-handers. So again, as a spinner coming into them, he will have to be bowling a lot of googlies, if you want to call it that, the ball that's going away. And when you try to bowl as many googlies as these spinners bowl, you tend to bowl a little loose because you're not going to be always as active. So you get a short one here, a wide one there. So I think that England will be up against it. This India team, they had their hiccup in the first game of the tournament, and many people had written them off. But they showed the kind of resolve that a champion team shows. People talk about the fact that they are playing at home and they're under pressure. I can tell you that team seems to be thriving under the pressure. They're at a stage now where they are, as they say in the Caribbean, they cock a hoop. So I think that they really and truly are playing. They reach into the level that they played prior to the World Cup when they had these tours where they had South Africa. I think not South Africa, but I think New Zealand came there, and I think somebody else came to India and played, and they scored massive totals. So some of those young players, that 100, that 90 that Samson would have scored, certainly would have lifted the spirits of every one of those Indian batters, that what is possible. And I believe that we haven't seen the best of them as yet. Maybe the semi-final will be that. And I still believe once they get to the finals, they're going to win it. I'm sorry.
Gus, I thank you very much. And now I know why they put you at short leg, because you're a brave man. I really applaud you. And Vernon, what is it about England and their team that makes you think that they will be able to handle whatever India throws at them? And what can India throw at them?
Coaches don't make players. Players make coaches. And you got two coaches going head to head. You got Gambia and you have, a good friend McCullum. Confidence is good, but arrogance could also be dangerous. And sometimes there's a level of beginning to understand that you have to kind of respect the game. If you followed through on the early part of when this tournament started, India was indicating that they wanted some more batting-friendly tracks because they felt more than anything else that they were exposed. And I don't want to go off course from the T20 to go to Test cricket, but you recognize that they would have struggled against New Zealand. When New Zealand, you would have to say, outbowl them to a point with their spinners. And we always know that. Even when Gus was playing, you always used to hear something in the Caribbean there, but the Indians are great playing spin bowling. But somewhere along the line, if you had a good spinner always got wickets against the Indian batsman from way back when. They have developed themselves over a period of time where they have come to the science of cricket and the technology, how they're prepared. They've got their bowling machines, they've got their sling coaches. And so you can't really challenge them too much with fast bowling. When I say you can't challenge them, it just depends on what track. But the thing about it is that big players have big attitude. But at the same time, you still have to be able to still respect the game. And if you look at this Indian team, there have been some soft dismissals in some respect of their batting. When they played against the West Indies, two of their top bowlers in Vernon and Bumrah went for over 40. That was easily about 80 runs. So England is quietly also looking at that and saying, wow, okay.
That's right.
Boy, yeah, this is not too bad. But Bumrah, again, like I said, is an impact player, somebody who can raise his standards. Now, there was a different ploy. He didn't start against the West Indies. So you got to take that into consideration. So there's almost like a wait and see sort of situation, right? The lengths that England are going to bowl to the Indian batsman is also going to be critical. I think the fittest team, the team that is strong mentally, and that's why I'm saying that England, when you look at Harry Brook bat, right? Boy, trust me, I know Gus like Phil Salt and Josh Butler, right? But I think Harry Brook is, I don't want to say he's a kind of crazy man, but he kind of reminds me of McCullum. The kind of shots sometimes that he plays, and you don't want to say the risk that he takes, but he's just so he's a crazy match winner. So it's going to be an interesting situation. Gambia is under some serious pressure. The internal politics, Indian politics, is beating around. Already they want his head. And if he doesn't win this, then you know what's going to be happening, right? So I think it is going to be a big one. Pandey has not really come to the party, and that's why I was talking about arrogance. You still have to be able to still respect the game, right? But they're the defending champions. And when you're the defending champions, they don't have a Sharma in this team right now. So leadership is also going to be key. And I know Gus said pressure, but I still feel that England will go one up on them.
Thank you, Vernon. And Professor.
Well,
same question to you. If you want me to repeat it, I will.
No. My mind has been running, singles all. Now, let's cut the fat and get down to the bone. In the last 3 World Series Cup in semifinals, it has been India against England. Okay? 2022, England took India to the cleaners and hung them out to dry. Okay? Yeah. Beat them mercilessly. Last one, India won comfortably over England. Now it is the rubber match. Okay? They have both won one of the last two that they played in the semifinals. Or they always end up in the semifinals for the last two tournaments. Maybe ICC have something to do with that too. I don't know. But no, this is a match now that is going to come down to, okay, you beat me once, I beat you once, and now let's go for the marbles. And I've said it before that the man who wins the cup. And I've called England earlier. And Singh and Bummer, they won't even take one wicket. Because England is going to bat, Salt is going to bat through. Okay? He's long overdue. Okay? He is long overdue. And we know that the law of average try to pay people for their diligence. Okay? So Salt is going to bat through. And England is going to whip India. And I will be cheering them as the whipping is taking place.
Okay, thank you, Professor. We look forward to seeing what will take place. And just to go over a couple of key stats here, and John, the best team so far in the power play, not surprisingly, batting, is South Africa, led by Markham and their top order. The interesting thing is that going all the way down to Stubbs, Tristan Stubbs, we have, of course, the Markham, the Rickleton, the Brevis, the Cock, David Miller, and Stubbs. They bat deep, and they have all been productive for the World Cup so far. But the worst bowling team in the power play happens to be New Zealand. So with just that alone, are you surprised at that, John?
Yes. In terms of statistics, yes. That New Zealand will be ranked as the worst bowling team.
In the power play. In the power play.
In the power play. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, in the power play. Yeah. And I wasn't aware of that stat. So I have to thank you for bringing it to light. But against who was it that played? England? I think they bowled quite well, I think, against England there, because they got out, who was it, Phil, or am I mixing? Yeah, they got out Phil Salt and Josh Butler quite early. But so I think they'll do okay. With Matt Henry and Lockie Ferguson, of course, Mitchell Santner, Rashin, although he usually comes later in the bowling chain, Ravindra. But up front with Matt Henry and Lockie Ferguson, I think they'll hold their own against South Africa. Although I still think South Africa is going to come out of this one to get into the final.
Okay, thank you. Gus, South Africa, and we're looking at more the bowling front with Ngidi, Marco Jensen, who is a wicket taker, a bit expensive, I think, but he's a wicket taker. Bosch, and of course, Rabada has not taken many wickets, but he has bowled well. Your thoughts on that South African bowling unit, and with a little focus on Rabada, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I think we had alluded to his lack of penetration earlier on in the outing. I think, as I said before, prior to the West Indies game, there was a little bit of, talk as to whether or not he can hold his place in the team going into that crucial game against the West Indies, because in the sidelines, they had Norty, I think, who is also a genuine quick bowler. And they also had another young quick bowler in the dugout as well, because Rabada, remember in that game against Afghanistan, he bowled a few no balls. And even that game that they won with the super overs, the reason it went into the first super over is because when he took the wicket in the last over of the game and they thought they had won, he saw the umpire signaling no ball. So I don't know if you remember that. Hence the reason why the game ended up being, a tie game. One, the catch was taken, they were celebrating, and then it was a no ball. So he had to bowl an extra ball, which went for 4 or 6 or something like that. And eventually the final delivery, so they got a run out. He did fantastically well with a return from the boundary, picked the ball up and used his left hand and took the bail off just as the batter had his bat in the air. So that really and truly was a fantastic recovery for him in that final over. And then, of course, they went on to win 2 super overs. So after that game, there was some voices who felt he's under par, he's not, stepping up, because he basically has been looked at as the spearhead of the bowling attack, most experienced player, And of course, he came out and he did well against the West Indies. I think that game would have brought him back, his confidence back. And I think that, as I said, would have been the cog in the wheel that was missing from their bowling. Him being able to contribute not only with wickets, but contribute economically as well. Of course, Ngidi seemed to be the man of the moment. As you say, he has the most wickets for them. He has a slower ball that is very much well disguised. And he seemed to be foxing a lot of the better players in the world with that slower ball, that delivery. And he's not afraid to do it, not afraid to bowl it. And I think that kudos to him. Bosch has come on leaps and bounds. He's bowling pretty quick as well. And he's bowling very accurate. And I think he also is a vital cog in their wheel. Maraj, he comes up and he does his thing, at the end of the day, he's consistent as ever. Yes, he can go for a few as well, because the type of surfaces they're playing on in India doesn't give us much purchase as some of the surfaces we saw in Sri Lanka. So obviously his spin will be very vital in that particular area. But I think the Jensen young man, the left-handed, is also an awkward proposition for you. He's tall, and he does get a bit of bounce. He does get a bit of lift. He has a nice little Yorker as well. He also hasn't really been at his best, but he has taken critical wickets at times, but still he has some way to go. And I think he will put it together in the semifinals. No two ways about, because they have a confident bunch. They support each other well in the field. Yes, they've had maybe 1 or 2 blunders like all teams. But I think when you look at the percentage of their catching and fielding, you will see it's way up there in the 80s. I think, as I said before, they're well led, well supervised in the field by the captain, who's very proactive. And he seemed to have the trust of the players, and the players seem to trust him in decision making. One of the things about that team, you don't see too many shuffling of the order. Everybody knows. You talk about people's roles, and everybody knows what their role is. And even if they have to adjust their roles, because one of the things you keep hearing, people have their roles to play, but your roles can change from situation to situation. And if you are a player who can adapt to the different situations, there's nothing telling me that if you have a role as a basher and the situation presents itself where you have to be an accumulator, that you can't do it. And they have players who can make adjustments to the type of play they are. And that's why we see them where they are.
Thank you, Gus. And Vernon, I'm going to bring you over to England, and specifically their bowling unit and how it would match up against India. And if you could just pay special attention to Jofra Archer so far and Adil Rashid in particular, but the entire bowling unit, of course.
Dale, I know we're talking World Cup cricket tonight, but just before I answer that, I want to congratulate Sri Lanka women team, because we're talking cricket and I think it is important. And I know we only have an hour tonight, but I want to say here tonight that what is happening with women's cricket in the Caribbean is women's cricket is at the crossroads, and we're in a crisis. And nobody's calling for the head coach's head. What we have is a lot of talk taking place. But you can't tell me that as a coach, your job is to identify talent. And you can't have young talent sitting down in a pavilion and we continue to recycle back these same West Indian women cricketers who are quote unquote playing around the world, but are not bringing their A game to the West Indies level. It's either that they're injured, something is happening, and I'm saying that we got to be able to move on from that. And what is alarming is that you could say that we lost 5-1 or 5-0 because had the first game not been rained out, we were bowled out for 49, Sri Lanka would have won the series 6-0. And we're going to take on Australia now in St. Vincent and St. Kitts, starting on the 19th of March. So I just want to congratulate Sri Lanka. I know we don't have a lot of time to deal with West Indies women cricket tonight, but we seriously have to finish with the flush talk. We can't compete against people if we are not identifying the young talent and looking to be able to change the mindset of the players. If players are injured, they need to sit on the bench. Because we can't got young players sitting on the bench and looking at some of these older players going out there and we're getting the same result. We might as well try some of the young players and look for development to be able to go forward. And the attitude of what I'm seeing coming from some of the senior women that are playing for the West Indies team, something has to be off. The team is not balanced. And I just find that the coaching staff just seems not to be able to motivate them. In fact, I think that the captain look like she has more say than almost everybody, even the head coach. I mean, she decides who plays and who does not play. So and it's obvious because his friends playing. So sometimes you look and you see that, because it's the same to the people that are getting picked all the time, and it's the same to the people coming up with the same results. So I just had to get that in because I know we got short time. Coming back to what you were asking me about the bowling lineup, cricket is played on the day, Dale. And what has happened in the preliminary games before in the Super 8 are done and dusted. You're now down to a pressure situation. And pressure means that unlike the West Indies who are always talking about data and matchups, these people are not going to be talking about data and matchups. It's going to be about people turning up on the day and deciding what is going to happen, right? I don't want to predict the bowling, Dale, because they now moved to India, and so conditions might change. And Gus did raise a point. You got Adil Rashid, you got Ahmed. Those might have worked when they were playing in Sri Lanka. In India, Adil Rashid maybe might couldn't hold his own, but at the same time, the consistency of of England bowling. England is, I think, going to be dependent on Overton, Dawson, and Archer. They're most likely going to try to see if they can go hard at the Indian batsman, right? The Indian batsman, mentally, more or less, they're also going to be prepared knowing that Archer is going to be coming for them. So I think it's going to be a good contest. He's still back in England. I told you, South Africa, England final. I see Gus smiling.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I'm laughing because, when we discuss cricket here in the Caribbean, we get very emotional. And sometimes our emotion sometimes clouds sometimes the facts. And one of the things I heard someone said yesterday was that we lost the game against India because they stole Hetmyer out. And there's nothing you could say or do to change that opinion. So that's why I say we have to sometimes get rid of the emotions and look at the facts as they are. So I take your point that you want England to win. And I, Professor, so I'm going to stand alone. My good friend, Brother Melbourne, I know you didn't want either of them around.
Well, I guess, Gus, you're the gatekeeper for India.
Maybe you say I'm going where the money is.
Yeah. Well,
But
Professor.
talking about just one more thing before we go. I mean, it is sad that the World Cup cricket is in the air and we are all happy and rejoicing. But just around the corner, we have this, this war that is going on, and it could affect so many things in the next few days. Who knows? Maybe even, we would like to see the World Cup completed. We like to see people coming home, because right now our players are stuck in India, and many of the people who are trying to get out from those areas cannot. So we pray and we trust that good sense will prevail, and that the power that we will make the decision to call this foolish situation off and let people go back to love and peace and harmony with one another. Just unfortunate, but no, that's all I can ask.
Okay, Sir Professor, thank you, Gus. I will give you the wrapping up words where we know we have all the picks in. We are predicting, our panelists are predicting England, South Africa.
Hold on, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
I see that you're either quietly an impact gatekeeper because you haven't said anything as to who you think will win. You thought that you were going to get away with this? I mean, come on. You give us your prediction. You seem as if you want to be the mediator quietly, and you want to stay right behind Gus by saying, okay, well, I'm just the agent behind Gus by not saying anything. We want to hear your final two.
Okay, that is fair enough. And you have hit, believe it or not, you have hit the nail on the head. There's a reason why I admired Gus's bravery, because I'm walking side by side. I'm at backward short leg and he's at forward short leg. In other words,
you see what I'm talking about, Professor?
Yes, I'm listening.
I know some plot was going on there all the time. You had to call him out.
Huh? I'm glad that Brother Vernon called to release the files. not really.
There was no collusion. There's no collusion here. I want you to know there's no collusion here.
None whatsoever.
You know what just happened, Professor and John and Gus? You know what is happening with the Epstein files, right?
Yes.
You got to understand that there's a reason why this war is taking place. The reason why this war is taking place is to deflect away from the Epstein files. You know what I mean? So it's the same thing that Dale was trying just a while ago.
Exactly.
Oh my word.
Oh, man.
But, as I said, I like to always say I represent the fans, because the fans are full of, the fans are 50-50 balanced out there. So even though it's 4-2, or 3-2, we're England and or South Africa, and India is out the picture. It is England against South Africa, and India is taking home the punch. Now, this is a good exercise, because we have never had the side effects that we're having right now, where a lot of people might not be able to get to the game because they have shut down so many of the airlines and airports. And even a country like the UAE that really, was a part of the cricket platform, they're getting bombs dropped on them right now. So it is a rather depressing situation, as was mentioned, that while the world is focused on a peaceful game, we are having this disruption. We are worried now about other things. And so we hope it does not really have an impact on the game, even though we know that internet has been shut off in some places. They can't watch the game. They would not be able to view the game. All the other things that's taking place. And just like when we started and we're concerned about the Pakistani and the Indian situation, as what impact it's going to have on the game. Brother Gus, ICC might lose some money because of this war.
Yeah, they certainly will.
Okay.
They certainly will.
Yes.
Counting the cost of this one.
Right. So all of that is playing out there, So for the fans who are out there listening, and again, I say the fans are coming right from across the world, okay? Because they listen very keenly to what we have to say. Part of the reason is because we are so bold, okay? That when they listen to Brother Vernon, he's so bold, okay? In addressing and calling out facts, which you might not find that some of the other cultures have that boldness when they see things that they object to. You know, they might be a little bit soft-spoken. You know, the brother goes.
That's all right. That's all right.
But nevertheless, I say that this exercise tells us that we are going to have an interesting semifinal, because whether we like it or not, both teams are starting from scratch right now. Okay, nobody has a point on the board. Everybody's hoping that, after they gave everybody 6 love and they sit down, it's their time now to either get it or give it or take it. And when all is said and done, we can only say that it's great that we can sit down in advance of a semifinal and not only exercise our opinion, but represent the fans out there who are sharing some of the same opinions, comments that we share. And all of them at this time, I should say, as somebody who represents them, even though I'm sorry for Brother Dale and Brother Gus, but it's okay. So let me thank you again, gentlemen, for again being able to serve our community in this manner. Okay? Because we are putting forth our presence at the highest level, and that is important for our people to recognize. Okay, that when it comes to analysis as well as predictions, we are not taking a back seat to anyone. So let me thank you so much. And Brother Dale, yes, I know I know that when you started, you said that there are only 4 panelists, but I thank Brother Vernon for pulling you out from behind the shadows. So, but I heard that, I heard that very clearly when you started. You said there are 4. I'm like, okay.
I think that was a slip of the tongue, right?
I removed myself from the panel to give you all the freedom. Yes.
So again, I say, Brother Vernon,
you have the deciding vote there.
There you go. And it wasn't needed because it was overwhelming,